Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Rewriting the Narrative panel. My name is Sandro Morales Santoro, and I'm a composer for film and TV, also part of the executive committee of the Composers Diversity Collective. I have worked on various projects like Restaurants at the End of the World, currently airing on National Geographic and streaming on Disney Plus, and Cold and Windy, streaming on All Black. I'm excited to speak to other creatives in the industry, and I'm super excited about participants in this panel, so please join me in welcoming them. So first up, we have composer for the recently released series Glamorous. Please welcome Joy Niao.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Of course. Next, we have editor at Gold Bear Edit. Please welcome Wellington Harrison.
Thanks for having me, Sandro.
Of course. Next, we have actress and writer, Joy Regoliano.
Hello. Yes, thank you for having me as well.
Of course. And last but not least, we have Emmy-winning composer for Primates. Please welcome Denise Santos.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
All right, thank you all for coming. So my first question is going to be for the whole group. Feel free to answer if you feel like it. So let's see. It's when working on developing inclusivity and amplifying diverse voices in the industry, how do you recommend people get started?
I think it's part of asking the question, why not? Like, why can't this story be told differently? Human beings don't come in one flavor.
I think it's important to find your community. I believe in the power of coming together and standing up for a cause. And there's so many wonderful groups like this in LA. For composers, like Sandro says, there's the Composer Diversity Collective. There's also the Alliance for Women Film Composers. So I really believe in the power of coming together. And I think studio more and more now are hearing us and setting up initiatives as well to support composers, but also other creatives. So I highly recommend to just reach out and start connecting with other people.
Yeah, and to add to what Joy just said, it's part of that, building community is going to film festivals as well. I think there's a ton of film festivals that happen, not just in LA, but in like every other city. So it's like good to show up to those and meet people and connect with like-minded people there.
Yeah, what everybody else said, and I guess I would just add, as an artist, work on your own craft, because that's the only thing you can control. Can't control other people, but work on your craft. And then for people maybe not necessarily creative, I think people should be nurtured in all areas, like behind the camera, in front of the camera, like execs, assistants, because we need diverse people on in all areas, decision makers and creatives and all that stuff. And even people who are not in the industry, like if you are a patron of the arts, if you go and support diverse people's projects, or even if you are just like a badass person, and then like for example, Marie Kondo, it just like was just great at cleaning and passionate about it. And now somebody gets to like be Marie Kondo on SNL, like gives an opportunity for an Asian American actress to play them as a character, that kind of thing. So yeah, just I think there's lots of ways to help diversity, like in all areas.
Amazing. Yeah, no, I'm happy to see a lot of efforts from the studios, right, with in terms of diversity. My hope also, as someone who works in that area of looking for more inclusivity, is just that it's not only about ticking the box,
Right.
and it's just like, yeah, let's add diversity. Yeah, we brought this person from this background or that background. I feel like it's more about like actual inclusion. It's like, give us the window to tell our stories. Let us, be part of the creative process and make the music, or the writing and everything just more authentic, so that we can, put a little bit of ourselves in it, right? But yeah, lovely. So let's see. Joy Ann, your recent project, Glamorous, starring Kim Cattrall and Miss Benny. What was it like developing the score for such a fun show?
Yeah, that was really fun. Glamorous is actually my first TV show, so I felt really lucky to be part of a show that advocates for, a wide range of LGBTQ experiences. A lot of themes like gender identity and inclusion were talked about. So it felt important to me to help portray the music to help portray these characters' experiences, because they weren't just one-dimensional. They showcased, the family dynamics, work relationships, romantic relationships. So it's really an honor to write music to represent like just a wide range of human experiences. Then also this show gave me a chance to experiment with a more contemporary and pop sound, which is kind of a deviation from my usual orchestral scores. So that was fun, reaching out to composer friends and just ask for recommendations, like how I can make a score sound poppy and campy. And so it's really fun to expand my repertoire that way.
Amazing. Yeah, I love it when we get a chance to like get out of our comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
Or
And
something
but you can
different.
still add your personal flair to it, which is quite fun because I still use some orchestral elements, but just using like plugins or to manipulate the sound to add like a modern flair to it. So it's cool to experiment that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Great. So another question for the whole group, whomever wants to answer is welcome. How does the presence of a diverse body of creatives make itself known in the final product of a project?
I think it just like as far as like writing and acting goes, like I think you just see the specificity in the story, in the writing, and in the acting. Like it just you buy that those actors like live that experience or have some experience with that. You buy that the writers had a lot of like it wasn't just like lip service, or you're not just like making up a diverse story like just cause. Like it really feels like, oh, okay, like those people have lived that life, and it comes through. And then you also see it, I think, in like just like names in the credits. You see it in people's faces. Like it's just a beautiful rainbow of different skin tones. Those are just some of the ways I think you can see it.
And I think in editing, it makes it feel more real, because it's not operating in a vacuum. You get to see actual people walking around, like I think the huge criticism of a show like Friends was that you didn't see other people walking around very rarely,
Right.
so the more you can mix and merge everything, the more options you have actually.
Yeah, everyone just brings their own perspective and life experiences, and there's absolutely a huge impact when a story is represented authentically on screen. Like a film I can think of is Past Lives. Like that movie really shook me to my core because like the representation of being an Asian woman living in the States, but having reverse culture shock when you go home, but you're not 100% belong here, and that in betweenness, that is so hard to explain until I saw it on the screen. I'm like, someone else has this exact same experience that I have. And that's so powerful that through our art and through watching other people's stories, you can really, I never met that director, but I would love to because I suddenly feel like a connection to her. And that won't happen unless it's like stories are represented authentically on screen.
Exactly. And like filmmaking is so nuanced, and as composers, it's almost important for us to kind of like have the shared lived experiences as the storytellers and the characters in the film. So I think by including not just like composers but other diverse crew members, it's just we get to check and balance each other that way. Like everyone gets to share their own perspective, and we get to nail the like super minute details of it because we are so diverse.
Yeah, I feel like luckily, the studios have been realizing for the past at least, 5 to 10 years that diverse stories sell, and people want to watch them. And, there's been, so much success from films like Black Panther or Moonlight or, Encanto, or, it's even animation, so luckily, we're opening their eyes, and that's opening a door for a lot of creatives like ourselves. So Wellington, can you share some insight into editing for specific genres like comedy? What's your philosophy for comedic timing? I've seen how editing can make or break the work of an actor or the writing. It's sort of the same for us composers. So I'm super, curious about any techniques, any insight that you can give on working with comedic timing, which is so important for comedy.
So the first thing in comedy is speed, right? We need to keep things moving. Things have to be really fast. And for me, I like when it comes to an abrupt halt. And then I love attaching a bit of fantasy right after that point. So it's we're moving along, everything seems fine, something weird happens, and then we're in a fantasy and we don't know how we got there. That's funny to me. So that's what I like to do with my timing. That's where I like to start. And then it's all relative to what's written, what's performed, and so on. And we use everything as editors, we bring everything together in order to pull up on that one story, right? So we're going to use the music, we're going to use the sound effects, we're going to use everything to just pull that up. And I'm always coming from the point of view of, what if you could see what that person is thinking? And if that's a fantasy, it's kind of like sometimes you think you heard someone say something, but that's really what you wanted them to say.
Right,
and
yeah.
they didn't say that in reality. So it's playing around with that a little bit to sort of make the audience feel uncomfortable, make the audience feel awkward, in a sense that you can jump back and laugh at it, and release the pressure of the moment.
Right. Love it. Yeah. So another question for the whole group. Do you feel like there is power in seeing oneself depicted on screen? Is there power in seeing someone else reflected on screen instead? How do we accommodate this dichotomy?
Definitely power in seeing yourself depicted on screen, especially if it's on a good light. Like,
Right.
even if like the story isn't something that, like, sometimes it's career based and it's not the exact career that you have, but just seeing someone similar to you succeeding in something and being represented and broadcasted for everyone to see, it just empowers you. And at the same time, it's important to see other people being depicted, because then you get to step out of your own bubble. And so I think seeing both, a balance of both, is really good. And I agree, there's so much power in that.
Yeah, I think seeing people that look like your family and look like the people you grew up with is very comforting, right? Because it'll help you relax. It'll be like, oh, I know this. And then also at the same time, seeing something completely different, you get to be a fly on the wall. You get to see like, oh, I've been through something similar. I wonder how they're going to handle it. And it's interesting to see how different cultures approach the same problem.
Yeah, jumping off that, it's an education. Like, I feel like if I see someone else in a different culture and a different, religion, a different ethnicity, I get to learn from their background. I learned so much from the films. But like what Denise said too, there's such a validation and recognition to see your culture and yourself represent on screen, and it reinforces the idea that our experiences are just as valuable as the same repeated stories, that the same, representation that we've seen. And to promote more inclusive storytelling, I think it's definitely very crucial in this industry right now.
Yeah, I'll speak to the flip side of that. Like, never seeing yourself represented is really like erasure. Like, it's just like, oh, do I exist? Do my people exist? And like, as somebody who grew up, with American education, I think the Philippines was mentioned during World War II. Like, I was like, oh, okay, there was it was the Eastern, I don't know, whatever, like a different area, Pacific Theater War, whatever they said. So it's just like, yeah, it's just like, did my people contribute anything to the world? And so it like really like hammers down on your sense of worth and self-esteem. So it's so, like, just what everybody else said, it's so important to see yourself. And then also, I have one interesting anecdote. So the show Doc McStuffins. I guess apparently what happened was, so it's like an African American young girl who's like the main character who plays a doctor, and it's so powerful that like young boys, like there's one little boy who saw it and he was like, oh, can boys be doctors? Like, he just didn't even know. So it's just like it's so powerful. I think it cuts both ways. And then to what everybody else said, yes, like to see people who are different from you, who you don't normally come into contact with, like it's so powerful to like humanize them, because you know, we all haven't experienced every lived experience or every identity. So being able to like really see what goes on behind their head humanizes them, and just like what Wellington said, like it's just like you get to see what makes them tick in our common humanity. And so I think maybe a way to walk the dichotomy is like that the industry should just tell lots of different stories, so nobody has to have a burden of representation of like, oh, this was the one Filipino studio feature, oh, we got to get it right and represent everybody, like too much pressure. So just more stories and more representation for everybody.
And jumping in on what Joy was talking about with the Philippines, I see the Philippines now as a location for shows, and that's great. Like there's this show on Amazon called Almost Paradise, which is basically like Magnum PI, and it takes place in the Philippines, and they've got Filipino problems. They don't have American problems over there. They got Filipino problems.
Yeah.
And here's this American who's like a CIA or DEA agent who's trying to calm down. He has like anger issues and stress issues. And so he comes to the Philippines in the hopes of living his life. And he's having real Filipino problems. Like they take him out to the street market and they're showing him the food and he is confused, but he likes it, you know? So it's like, it's like a real cultural understanding instead of just being like, you know, coming and we're going to make America light over here in the Philippines. No, it's the Philippines as the backdrop for this story. And I think that's the better way to go about it.
Yeah, no, totally. I agree. I mean, it's just something that is so important, so crucial. And you know, for myself, you know, I feel like most of the problems in the world are due to ignorance and just people being afraid of another person who's different. And you know, maybe, you know, film and TV are not going to save the world, but still can can give everyone a different perspective. You know, when we have shows like what you're saying, Wellington, you know, that depict the realities of a different society, and then you can watch it and see how they're different to you and how we're similar and have, you know, similar kind of problems. Because yeah, I mean we have to fight that ignorance where people assume, you know, like I know this one person from the Philippines, so everyone else should be like, it's probably like them. It's not the case, you know. It's something that all of us, you know, as first, second, third generation of immigrant, you know, we fight with, or you know, just, you know, people of color in general.
Right.
So yeah. All right. So the next question is for Joy R. How do any aspects of your identity inform the work you do on a project?
Yeah, you know, the body I live in and my lived experiences, I can't help but make it into my writing. You know, I have this like specifics and knowledge that like I just have to write about. So I read a lot about like race, class, politics, you know, what it's like from the perspective of being Asian American, being a woman, class, you know, all that stuff. And also I part of my identity is I love laughing and humor. So it usually has some kind of a humorous bent on it. Yeah.
Amazing. All right. So for the whole group, do you think we're on the right track when it comes to making the industry more equitable for all creatives? What have you noticed about the industry?
Definitely seeing a lot more diverse films and TV shows out there. And I think I saw something about how this Barbie Oppenheimer thing has not become like a war, where it's become more of like a joint effort. And it's like people are seeing both. It's not, are you one or the other? I think that's a really good sign that people are more open to just like very different stories, and they're welcome to having them both. Like they don't have to fight for that space.
It seems like that narrative has been the best thing that has happened to both films, right?
Yeah. The hype about that.
Yeah, and it like they helped each other that way. You're right, and it's like that's so nice to see that you know, when you come together, it actually creates something bigger.
Yeah. And also that I also realized studios have more and taking more initiative to hear these underrepresented voices. Like I know Universal has they have a lot of different initiatives for directors and composers to, they want to hear from new voices, and there's a hunger in that. There's also a lot of groups, like Sandro said himself, like Composer Diversity Collective, who I was very fortunate to be elected on the community board. So I'm really stoked. It's such a good group.
Yeah.
It's such a good group. Sorry, you were gonna say something.
I'm just excited that you're gonna be part of the
Yeah.
executive committee.
No, I love it so much because like I never, when I first moved to LA, it took me some time to find like people that looked like me, or to belong, to feel like I belong in a certain group. And the Composer Diversity Collective, the Alliance for Women Composers, and CAPE, and Gold House, there's just so many organizations there that it's just a resource for us. And I just think there's more momentum to come together, and like what Denise was saying, the people supporting films and just creating art, and that's what filmmaking and storytelling is supposed to be, I think.
I'll be really happy when it's a given. When it's a given that we expect projects to just be a blend of everything. I'll be excited for that day. Until then, it's continuing to push against the wind, the tide, whatever analogy you like, and making sure that everyone is represented as an actual human being.
That's right.
Yeah, to just hop on everyone else, definitely the trend is going the right way. Everything everywhere all at once, what a triumph. Joyride would never maybe not have been made 15, 20 years ago. All that stuff is doing great. And even I'll say, of course, there's more work to be done. The strike is on the right track, as strikes, double strikes, as Fran Drescher said, this is sort of our version of marching on Versailles. Besides besides all of the race stuff, there's also class stuff, and I mean, those things are so bound up together, of course, in this country. So I think we're working on dismantling the oligarchy and closing the wealth gap, so we're working on it.
Totally.
Yeah, if we can put these race stories on the side, class is way more interesting. Like class stories are way more interesting. Fish out of water, class stories are way more interesting than race stories. So like if we can get past that and get into like, oh, wow, the king and the pauper type of stories, trading places or something like that,
Right. I feel like also it's important when talking about class stories that there's, again, inclusion, not just because then we're in the same thing where like the same story is being told because it's not coming from the right people who should be telling those stories. So yeah, the fight, it has multiple fronts, and we have to keep at it. We can't be complacent, for sure.
Yeah, I know films don't save lives per se, but it does, and depict like empathy. It allows people to have empathy and to really understand and connect with one another. So it doesn't save lives, but it does create an influential power, I believe.
Butterfly effect.
Yeah, it does, for sure. A lot of people know more about the history that is being told in films than what is in the actual books.
Part of our culture.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next question, Denise. As a composer, what role do you believe music plays in enhancing the storytelling process and connecting with audiences?
Well, when I answered your earlier question, it's like as composers, we do see ourselves as characters of the film as well. So I definitely feel like the music that we create for a film definitely helps enhance the story. It pushes the story forward. Like my favorite analogy for it is like if you've been eating a dish and you forgot there was a sauce, and then you saw, oh, there's a sauce that's supposed to go really well with it, you add it, and it's like, whoa, that changes everything, or it ties it all together. I feel like that's what music plays in filmmaking, storytelling. We just help enhance what is already there. And without the music, sometimes, or the presence and absence of music also makes such a difference, right? Like when there's no music, it's like you start questioning, oh, what am I supposed to feel here? Or this is open to interpretation, versus like, when there's like a very cool scene where there's so much going on and there's music to enhance it, it just really helps drive what the director is trying to go for. So I really definitely feel like music is the special sauce.
I love that concept. Yeah, totally. All right. So, question open to the whole floor. What stories are you all excited to tell? What voices would you like to amplify?
I think I speak for everyone when I say diverse stories.
Yeah, I mean all of them.
Yeah.
But selfishly Asian American and Filipino American female, of course. But you know, all of them, I think.
I think finding the best parts out of diverse franchises like the Fast and the Furious, you don't have to like cars, you don't have to like action movies, but that is a wide group of different nationalities, cultures, backgrounds, and everything. So if we can do more of that in our ensemble storytelling, I think that'll be something I'd be more interested in.
I
That's
love
right.
that. Yeah, diversity in genre. I think that's such a
Yeah.
great point. Like Bridgerton and you know, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, bringing diversity to different genres where usually it's just white people. So I love
Yeah,
that.
and not rewrapping a story in a culture, but telling stories from that culture that give you that same feeling, telling new stories that make you feel like the old ones in a way.
That's right. Yeah, no, I mean, go ahead, Denise, please.
Oh, sorry. I definitely feel like I also am really excited to tell female-led stories.
Mhm.
I feel like that is something that I needed to see more of when I was growing up. Like there was a lot of like male success stories and white male success stories, and it was fun to watch, but like it was hard to relate to, and it would be nice to see more people of color, female-led stories.
Yeah, that's why it was so cool for me to see Joyride when it came out. I never seen Asian women, just being messy and just being explore their own thing, do their own thing, and just not be afraid to be loud and just be a human. Like there's no like I feel like we've always been in a box, and it's just so cool to see. Finally, I never seen people being so bold like that, like someone like that looks like me on screen. So that was very empowering, and I also really love the. I guess I was really impacted by past lives as well. The stories of cultures when they're like in between, like maybe I come from Malaysia, but I was born in China, but I lived in the States. So there's like this. I connected with a lot of filmmakers here, creatives who also say, oh yeah, I was born here, but then I lived there, and then there's like this weird cross. I feel like I'm in the middle of these two different cultures, and to me that's such an interesting story because there's so many layers to that. It's such a wide dimension to explore, so there's even more there. So there's just so like what Denise and everyone has been saying, like it's just diverse stories. There's so many stories to tell if the audience is willing to listen, and if the studios are willing to make it.
And to what Joy-Ann is saying, there's more people in the middle than you know.
Yeah.
Like there's more people that are on borders, like hostile borders, and coming from different sides of the same coin or completely unexpected pairings. So I think it's a good starting point, to start from someplace different instead of just a generic reset.
Yeah.
Right. I also feel like I love it when I see a film that depicts uh someone who's from a minority, and the film is not about the fact that they're another, the
Right.
fact that
Right.
it's lovely too, of course, films
Right.
about culture, are a specific culture, is great, but also I like seeing us represented on a superhero, on,
Yeah.
on seeing just a love story of two Latinx people, and it's not about them and the abuela and the way they cross the border,
Right.
or the crimes, or the typical thing that they want to make it about. It's just a love story, and that's it. The rest happens to be there, and I love it when I mean, I like the balance. I like both things, but sometimes some audiences need to feel like they're not being um indoctrinated. You know what I mean? Like, or
Right.
maybe that's too strong of a word, but like they're being told like, hey, you know, you have to see this culture. No, just like that the culture happens to be there, but like the story is about this other thing, you know. So yeah, I don't know, I just love when I just want to see more of that, you know. And yeah.
Yeah, the bus driver with the winning lottery ticket doesn't have to be from one particular background.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. That's
So
right.
cool you
I
said
agree.
that, Sandro, because I went to a lot of the Q&As for the glamorous actors when they were just talking about their experiences, and they told me that they were explaining that it's so cool to be in a show where I'm not trying to be anything. I get to have my own love story where like I'm just being desired. I'm not a side character who represents the LGBTQ, you know, struggles. I'm just living my daily lives. I'm going through life. I have my own family issues, work issues, my relationships thing. It's so cool to just be. They have a space to just live their human life, and that's incredible. It's so cool to hear from the actor's point of view as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I sort of related, you know, personally, uh, as a composer in living in Venezuela when I was like 23, 24 years old. Um, all of this, you know, coming to LA and working in this industry and finding a career, you know, making a career for myself here and finding the opportunities and all that felt so surreal and impossible. And I also wasn't, you know, I at the time I didn't know as much about, you know, my you know, the music of the place that I come from. You know, I knew a little bit about it. You know, I had studied, I had played it, but I wasn't an expert. I felt like if I'm not bringing that, what am I bringing? Where am I getting my opportunities? And then seeing someone like Gustavo Santolaya, which he, you know, amazing composer from Argentina who won 2 Oscars back to back for Brokeback Mountain and Babel, and 2 movies are not about, you know, being South American. They're not about,
Right.
you know, the music is not South American necessarily. It's not, you know, it's like, oh wow, okay, I can just go there and do this music that I love, and you know, bring my culture, you know, if I want to. And you know, if but if not, you know, I'll also like find opportunities to do something else. So I don't know, that I found that to be just really inspiring, and yeah, that just like eye-opening. So yeah. So are there any upcoming projects that you can share with us? That's a question for all of you.
Well, sadly, because of the SAG strike, I can't really talk about any acting stuff I've just been in that are by Struck Studios. So one day I'll be able to tell you a little bit about the tiny roles that I had. But besides that, I have a musical that I wrote the lyrics and the script for, and my friend Sam and Tony wrote the music, called Supportive White Parents. And our concept album is out on all streaming platforms. So check that out. Follow us on Insta and all of the platforms, and hopefully we'll have a workshop reading again soon.
That's amazing. Can't wait.
Thank
Cool.
you.
Yeah, everything is kind of on hold until this gets resolved. Everybody across all the disciplines are feeling it, and you know, I think if anything to come positive out of this, I'd like to see some indie projects pick up as a result and get waivers from both guilds in order to work, and let's see a little bit more of that. You know, we've seen The Blackening go from a short that Comedy Central played to an actual studio back feature. So if we can do a little bit more of that, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that's true. Like with indie productions, I feel like there's definitely a lot more openness to diverse stories. So I totally agree with you. Like I would support definitely indie projects, and let's see what happens when the strike is done.
Yeah, exactly.
And documentaries too. Like I love to just, you know, educate myself with different stories that's going on in the world. So that's also something I'm really looking forward to. At the moment I'm scoring an animated TV show, but it showcases a female protagonist, which I'm extremely excited about. So that's what I'm doing.
Speaking of documentaries, I do have a Netflix documentary that's we're currently nominated for a Daytime Emmy. So I'd
Congrats.
like to invite people to watch it. It's called Island of the Sea Wolves, and it's about the wildlife in Vancouver Island.
Amazing. That's so cool.
Denise is incredible.
Oh, you are. You
Ooh,
are.
can I do a little plug for a project I finished?
Please.
We just wrapped on Dear Mama for Hulu and FX, and it is the story of Afeni and Tupac Shakur. We are up for Emmys in 2 categories, and we're very excited for this long gestating project made with a lot of love to get some recognition.
That's amazing.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Also to Denise, thank you.
All right. So thank you so much to all of you for, sharing so much knowledge. That's all the time we have today. Thank you to our panelists, Joe Nya, Wellington Harrison, Joy Regoliano, and Denise Santos, for being here with us today to discuss their incredible work. Also, thank you to Impact 24 PR for putting this panel together, and to all of you for watching. Be sure to check out Airman Tourage and Real Deal Happy Hour for more events like these and networking opportunities. See you all next time.